What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Supplement Copywriting channel. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing how do you make your ecom supplement stand out and feel unique and different to potential customers, even if they aren't really unique. You can be using the exact same ingredients as a lot of your other competitors, but if you do the things that I talk about in this video, you'll be able to charge higher prices, you'll create brand loyalty, you'll have a higher lifetime value, and you'll never be viewed as a commodity that people buy just based on it being the lowest price, which is never a place that anybody wants to be. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing why your ecom supplements need to feel unique more now than ever, with people coming into the industry, folks marketing getting ripped all the time, and a sea of carbon copies that are all using the same ingredients and talking to the exact same target market. We're also going to be discussing how do you splice and dice your audience and look for subsegments of people that are already buying your product that your marketing isn't directly speaking to, and how to change your messaging so that you can explode sales from these little subsegments. We're going to be discussing how do you find and really explain your unique mechanism of the problem and solution to people so that even though you're using the same ingredients as competitors, yours feels like it is worth paying a higher price for because it solves a very unique problem for them. And then lastly, make sure that you stick around for this. This is one thing that I don't think enough people talk about. There's stuff that everybody in the industry is doing, but nobody speaks about in their marketing. And there's tons of examples of different industry experts who've gone about, found these things that everybody in one specific industry is doing, but nobody's talking about. So how do you find those things and then weave them into your marketing to really have a more unique selling proposition for your products? So let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of today's video. Now, the very first section of this is just going to be about why does your ecom supplement need to feel unique to potential customers? And a big part of the reason is because of the competition. Now, whenever it comes to competition and marketing, specifically in a place like ecom supplements, where more and more people are entering the industry every year, and most folks are just carbon copies of each other. They use the exact same ingredients, they use the same marketing, and they go after the same potential customers. Different gets noticed. This is why a lot of people will start a ecom supplement brand. They will just rip what a lot of other folks are doing, and they might eke by for a few years, but they will never hit that escape velocity and scale because they don't do anything different. And that's why this uniqueness and making your ecom supplement stand out and making it feel different is so important, because you want to get noticed. You want to be able to do things like charge a higher price for the exact same product as a competitor. And that's what this will allow you to do. When you're different, when you're unique, when you stand out from the crowd, it allows you to charge a lot higher prices because people aren't just shopping based on price like they do with other commodities. They're shopping because in your marketing, you've clearly explained that there's a very specific problem that no other supplement can solve. But due to the ingredients and the synergistic way that all the different ingredients work together, your product can. And people will come back and continually buy that product over and over again because you just have the courage to be different and to stand out and to get noticed and to speak about your product differently than anybody else. And like I kind of mentioned, this creates brand loyalty. It increases the lifetime value of customers, and it lowers the perceived competition from other brands because you're different, you're unique. Nobody else is speaking about these things. They don't have a unique mechanism of the problem or the solution. And so you are viewed as the clear alternative when you do these things. And also, it prevents you from being seen as a commodity. Now, you never want your potential customers just shopping based on what the lowest price is, but this is what happens when something is a commodity. When it is a carbon copy of the thing that is right next to it on the shelf, or when it's a carbon copy of something that they're getting hit with an ad of right after yours, and the only difference is the price, they're going to buy based on what the lowest price is. And you never want to be in that position. You want to be having the exact same product. You want it to be unique. But if you're using the exact same product as a competitor, but you are able to charge a higher price and you feel unique and different, that is the position that you want to be in. You want to be able to charge premium prices and have a good lifetime value and create this brand loyalty. But you can't do that if you are doing the exact same things as everybody else in the industry. And when you are viewed as a commodity, the reason that so many of these companies will just barely eke by for years on years is because there's zero brand loyalty and there's poor lifetime value. Because if people are just shopping based on price, they find something cheaper, they're going to go with that. So let's start breaking down, how do you make your ecom supplements feel different in a sea of commodities? Now, the very first thing is splicing and dicing your audience. Inside your potential audience, there's subsegments of people that you're currently not talking to. There are people who by happenstance buy your product, but you're not speaking directly to these people. So what you want to do is you dig into your existing customer base and you'll find unexpected pockets of people that buy your product. Maybe it's CEOs or busy moms or busy dads, or it could be something along the lines of entrepreneurs that want to improve their overall focus and mental stamina and things along those lines. So dig into your existing customer base and the demographics and psychographics of them, and you're bound to find some trends of people that you're not talking to. So a perfect example of this is Dan Kennedy, legendary copywriter and marketer, was going up against a Gary Halbert promotion. And if you know anything about Gary Halbert, he was legendary for nobody ever really being able to beat his promotions just strictly based on his copy. There was something about it. However, Dan Kennedy could find a way to beat his promotions if he went a different route. And so here's what Dan Kennedy did. He was going up to beat a Gary Halbert promotion, and the copy was great. It was their control. And so he started to dig into their customer base. And what he found is that for this specific promotion, there was a large portion of people on this list that were dentists. And Dan Kennedy had worked in the past with dentists quite a bit. So he knew their lingo, he knew the customer base very well. And so what he did was he went into this promotion and he changed maybe 200 to 300 words of copy, just switching things up so it spoke directly to dentists. And by doing that, speaking directly to the subsegment that was already on the list of dentists, he was actually able to beat Gary Halbert's promo and get the control. Like I mentioned, he only changed probably 200 to 300 words of copy, but what he did was he found this subsegment of people on the list that weren't being spoken directly to, and then he took all the language and just geared everything in the promotion towards dentists, and it absolutely exploded and it beat the control. And that's just an example of many of people going in and finding these unique ways to splice and dice your audience and to find subsegments that you're not currently talking to. So make sure that you dig into your customer base, and I guarantee that you'll find some of these. So like I said, I bet you're probably not speaking directly to these subsegments. It could be nurses, CEOs, busy dads, and moms, and they all have different pain points and desires. So just split test and adjust the language to speak directly to those people in your marketing, speak to their pain points, speak to the desires, speak to the things that they've tried that haven't worked. And you'll find these subsegments that are very, very profitable that you can go in and monetize that you aren't currently monetizing. And right away, that is a huge value add and a lift to your revenue on a monthly basis. The next thing is finding a new unique mechanism of the problem and unique mechanism of the solution. Now, if you don't know what a unique mechanism of the problem is, the UMP is the reason, the real underlying reason that the person hasn't been able to solve their issue. And then the unique mechanism of the solution is the unique way that your supplement works to solve that unique mechanism of the problem. So here, I'm going to give you guys an example to make it a little bit easier to understand. So somebody originally was just selling probiotics, and they're selling it for general health, for gut health, for all of these different kinds of things. But at a certain point, somebody figured out that you could take it into other markets. So let's say that you can't lose fat, right? And you've tried everything. You've tried all the diets, you've tried a bunch of other supplements. Maybe you've tried fasting and keto and counting calories, and it's just, you can't get the fat off, right? Well, somebody comes along and they say, hey, it's not due to any of those things. It's because you have too much bad bacteria that switches off your ability to burn fat. That's the unique mechanism of the problem. Immediately, it disqualifies everything else that they've tried. It explains why it never worked for them. And it gives them a very clear and easy to understand reason that they're having this problem. Too much bad gut bacteria switches off your ability to burn fat. So then the unique mechanism of the solution is you need to overcrowd the bad bacteria with good bacteria that switches on your fat burning. Now, again, this is really, really simplified just because I wanted to give a very easy to understand example, but this is quite literally how simple it can be. You know, it doesn't have to be very highfalutin, super over the top, overly scientific. It can be this simple, but I wanted to provide an example because I know that just talking about UMP and UMS is a bit out there. So I want to kind of bring it back to make it really easy to understand. But literally, this is what was done. At a certain point in time, somebody took a probiotic. They said, hey, too much bad gut bacteria switches off your ability to burn fat. You need to overcrowd the bad bacteria with good bacteria that switches on fat burning. And then they took it a step further. And they said, but you can't just take any old probiotic. That's not going to be able to switch on your ability to burn fat. you need to take these specific strains of bacteria, you need to take it in this dose. And oh, by the way, we have all of that in this fat burning probiotic. So immediately, that probiotic isn't viewed like any other probiotic. They're seen as the fat burning, fat loss probiotic. And so they took what was probably likely the exact same strains and exact same dosages of these bacteria, and then they just positioned it. They found a unique mechanism of the problem, and they found a unique mechanism of the solution, and they put it together to explode their sales. And the thing is, everybody could be still selling a probiotic, but if you're the first person to sell a fat loss probiotic, you will absolutely explode your revenue. So you need to dig into your ingredients and do more research than your competitors to find something unique that they aren't talking about. Maybe it's a specific ingredient. Maybe it's the synergistic effects. Maybe there's a specific problem going on that is stopping somebody from getting results. And it turns out that when you take these specific ingredients all together in this specific dosage, it actually alleviates that. So this does require more research, but understand, having a UMP and a UMS for your supplements is one of the most important things. It's the crux of what makes them feel unique and different and makes them stand out from anything else that's being sold on the market. And the beautiful part is, when you train yourself to find these UMPs and these UMSs over time, it gets easier. And when you're able to start looking for them, you can find them in a much quicker fashion, and you can start to notice cool, unique things about your products and your ingredients that you can pull out and turn into a unique mechanism of the problem and the solution itself. So make sure that for all your supplements, you have a UMP and a UMS. And sometimes what you'll notice is for brands, they'll have a UMP and a UMS. So as an example, a client that I worked with in the past, they would sell a specific set of minerals, and those minerals were actually shrunk down so small that they could be absorbed at a rate of 99.9% because they bypass digestion. So then every single one of their minerals, that was the UMP. Because if you're talking about, hey, you might be taking all these minerals in, this supplement or a multivitamin or something along those lines, and it's never worked, it's the reason that you're not absorbing them. This absorbs at 99.9% with zero digestion required. So your body's able to literally just upload these minerals into your cells to get this result. So they didn't have a UMP and a UMS for each individual supplement. They had it for their overall brand, and it went everywhere on their website, all their pages, everything along those lines. So you can take it the direction of creating a UMP for the individual products if you have a few of them. But if you have a larger SKU and there's one common thread that you do for all of your supplements to make them different, you can create a UMP and a UMS for your entire brand. So you don't have to do it for literally every single individual product. It can be done for an entire brand if that fits better for what you're currently doing. And the last thing is, what's everyone else doing that no one else is talking about in the industry? So a perfect example of this, and the reason that I have this picture here of this old guy pointing at a Schlitz beer bottle, is because there was a legendary marketer named Claude Hopkins. And his name is spelled wrong there, but I'm not going to change it now. So Claude Hopkins is a legendary marketer. He's written a ton of books that people still to this day read, scientific advertising, that are phenomenal. I'd recommend giving them a read. And so Claude Hopkins was hired to go into Schlitz beer many years ago. And at the time, I think Schlitz beer was like number 5 or number 10 in terms of beer sales. And so they wanted to find a way to make Schlitz beer the number 1 beer. And so when Claude Hopkins went in, he found out that they use this artesian water, how they sterilized the bottles, then how they went about aging their beer, and all these kinds of things that blew his mind. He was completely fascinated by the overall process of how they went about making their beer. And then he came up with that as a unique selling proposition. And when he brought it to the people at Schlitz Beer, they at first brushed him off because they said, well, everybody in the industry does that. Everybody uses this specific kind of water. They all sterilize the bottles. They all go through this aging process. And Claude Hopkins' response was, yeah, but nobody's talking about it. So the ideal customer doesn't even know that this exists. And then very quickly, they tested Claude Hopkins' idea, and Schlitz beer became the number 1 beer in the United States off the back of his marketing campaign by literally taking something that everybody in the industry was doing that wasn't unique to Schlitz beer, but they just became the very first person to talk about it in their industry. And that allowed them to become the number 1 beer for many years in a row. So inevitably, there's going to be different elements of your supplement and the way that they're produced, where you get ingredients from, all those kinds of things that are commonplace in the industry that nobody else is talking about. But because nobody talks about them, the potential customer has no idea that they're being done. So while it might be old news to you, it's brand new to the ideal customer, and it's something that can help you stand out, even though it's commonplace. These are the little nooks and crannies of marketing and copywriting where you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you just have to be the first to talk about something. So when you're the first to talk about something, you have the immediate advantage over the competition. It helps you to feel unique and to feel different and to feel like you are doing something that nobody else is. And this is a perfect example of it, because when Claude Hopkins went into Schlitz, it's something that literally every single beer was doing. But because nobody else was talking about it and Schlitz was the very first to talk about it, their beer felt new and different and unique in the exact same way that you want your supplements to feel. So this is 3 ideas of how you can take a supplement that maybe isn't unique and has the exact same ingredients as a lot of competitors, and how you can make it stand out and feel unique and feel different. So I hope this video helps, guys. If you have any questions, please go ahead and drop it in the comments below, and I will talk to you soon. Adios.